Perfect prospect pairings. I'm helping out two teams inside the top 5 of the 2025 NFL draft, giving them high quality prospects to fill some needs. Who are they? We'll discuss that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Guys, we have a fun show to break down and talk about. Perfect prospect pairings. I got 2 prospects, 2 teams, and I'm trying to help some people out. Biggest draft storylines after week 11 in college football, and of course, Dame's dudes. Keith's not here, but my name is on it, so we're going to talk about my 5 guys and who gets in and who doesn't get into the club. But before we can get into all of that, guys, listen, today's episode is sponsored by Ultimate GM. Use the promo code LOCKEDON NFL, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your franchise. Perfect prospect pairings. I am starting with Travis Hunter, the receiver, the cornerback, the athlete. Travis Hunter, the best player in college football, and arguably should be the Heisman winner right now. No one's doing what Travis is doing, playing 100+ snaps a game, defending typically the team's best receiver, then being his team's best receiver, right? You know what I mean? To face the top corner and then the top receiver 9 times out of 10 in these matchups every single game, and to do what he's doing is outstanding. So for me, I think about the team right now, per Tankathon. The Jacksonville Jaguars sit at number 1 with a record of 2-8. Well, we know that they don't need a quarterback. They just paid theirs. Now, if they didn't pay Trevor Lawrence, we might have a discussion or something like, hey, maybe they go ahead and make the change. But I don't foresee that happening. So because of the simple fact that they don't need a quarterback, well, what do they need? They could look at wide receiver. They could absolutely look at corner and D-line. I think Travis Hunter would be a perfect fit for them simply because he gives you both sides of the ball. So if your biggest need entering the draft, that spot that you need to fix, if it is the cornerback position, right? I'm absolutely Travis Hunter, you're slotted as CB1, CB2, right? We saw, I don't know who, for those who haven't seen it, please go check it out. It didn't count because I think it was a penalty. I think it was offsides or something like that. But he bail dropped out, cover 3 bail this past weekend against Texas Tech. Quarterback threw it in his direction, and he went up and got it. And just the leaping ability, the ball skills, the things you see him do at wide receiver. That's what makes him so dangerous at corner. It was so crazy that Tariq Woolen quote tweeted my guy Billy's tweet saying, listen, this dude's going to be a dog at cornerback in the NFL. And when you look at what Travis Hunter has done this season, targeted 27 times. He's allowed 17 receptions. He has 2 interceptions, 4 pass breakups. Guys, on the season, he's only allowed 125 combined yards in coverage. He only has 1 game that he's allowed over 30 yards in coverage, and that was week 3. So he has been locking it down and shutting it down all season long. Just what he's able to do, he has not given up. He has not been beaten for reception over 25 yards, not even 25 yards. His longest reception allowed is 23. So when you look at what he's able to do as a corner, 6'1", 185 pounds, this is a high caliber athlete. Speed, twitch, explosiveness, leaping ability, ball skills, tracking, all of that. He's not afraid to come downhill and literally make tackles in the run game either. So if it's a need that the Jacksonville Jaguars, if they say, hey, we need a corner, I'm not mad at you for putting Travis Hunter at corner, but I'm gonna say this and stick with me here. Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. as a 1-2 receiver combination, that's enticing. Okay, that's enticing. You're talking about helping Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, you got to make sure that you protect him, right? Got to, they trade away Cam Robinson, stuff like that. Figure out the offensive line situation, get your best 5, and try to get through that free agency, whatever. Cool. But let me tell you something, man. Travis, if they address the cornerback situation, they address some things, other things in free agency, and you could just go best player available and not just have to say, hey, I got to draft for need. And typically you talk to anybody that's worked in the NFL, that's one of the things you typically don't want to have to do is go into the parable, the example they always use is you don't go into the grocery store hungry, right? Because then you start buying everything. So you if you need a snack, you go buy the snack. But if you're starving, you're trying to buy a full course meal, right? Now you're spending more money than you need to. It's the same thing with the draft. It's the same thing with the offseason. If you can fix things in free agency, great. But if you can't, and you go into the draft with 3-4 needs, like now you're frustrated, you're trying to buy everything, and you're not drafting the best player available in that specific situation, right? So I think if they can address some stuff elsewhere, and they just draft Travis Hunter and play him at receiver, him and Brian Thomas Jr. would be an explosive tandem for Trevor Lawrence. And that's what you want to get, that deep ball going with Trever Lawrence, Tank Bigsby, Travis Etienne with the run game going, things of that nature. I'm just saying, guys, that's one of my perfect pairings. Now, my other perfect pairing, the New England Patriots right now are standing at pick with the 6th pick at 3 and 7. Typically, I've been up the thought process, hey, trade back. I think Kelvin Banks Jr., left tackle out of Texas, will be a perfect fit for them. They need to improve the offensive line. Got to protect Drake May. This is an athletic young man. He's got strength. He's good in the run game. I know everybody's going to go to that Georgia game because he had some losses in that Georgia game. And albeit, it was Jalen Walker and it was Mykel Williams. He had some wins against those guys as well. So I'm not going to sit here and just say that they dominated him. Now, like I think we talked about it after that game, Quinn Ewers sure as heck didn't help him with the way he played and sat in the pocket like he just had, the FBI standing in front of him and he was the president of the United States. Like that just was not the case. Quinn, he kind of led to some of the sacks and stuff like that. But Kelvin Banks, like this is a good player, man. 6'4", 320. Again, athletic, strong-handed guy in the run game, runs his feet well. And this is a team that's going to run the ball, right? You're going to run the ball. Ramondre Stevenson, get downhill. They might draft another running back as well. But if you run the ball, get that going, get downhill, get the play action game going for Drake May, man, the sky's the limit in that situation, guys. You can't tell me anything different. But I say, I'm going to be honest with you. There is not a tackle right now that warrants a top 10 pick. There isn't. I love Ariante Ursary, right? But even he's not worth a top 10 pick right now. Will Campbell, talk to scouts and different people, NFL personnel people that I'm close to, and people who evaluate say, listen, I think he's more of a guard. Of course, a team that needs a tackle might draft him and say, listen, we're going to try you at a tackle. Heck, Talise Fuaga is at tackle right now for the New Orleans Saints, right? J.C. Latham, a guy that I remember Twitter telling me he's only a guard. He can't play tackle. Well, so far so good for the Titans, right? Like J.C. Latham has looked good at tackle. So I just think of this aspect. If Will Campbell gets a shot, cool. But I don't think there's a pure tackle that you say, man, I'm drafting him top 10, top 6, whatever the case may be. And if I'm the New England Patriots, if for some reason, like a Mason Graham fell, right? Because you got to look at it. Like you're going to have quarterbacks, probably the top 2 picks. Jacksonville might trade out of that first overall pick, right? So they say a team like the Raiders move up and go get, so the Raiders and Giants are at 1 and 2. That's 2 quarterbacks right there, right? You might get 3 if Tennessee forces it. And now you got Cleveland sitting there. They might go the best player available. Then, Jacksonville at 5 goes best player available. You might have a team that wants to get up and take an edge rusher or something like that, a defensive lineman, whatever the case may be. If you can trade back if you're New England, great. If you have to stand and pick and you take a tackle, I'm not mad at it. I just don't know if there's a tackle really warranting a top 10 pick. But I think Kelvin Banks Jr. is close to being like a top 15 pick, top 20 for sure. At the end of the day, That's a big need, and I don't know if they're going to be able to fill that need in free agency. We'll see. But I absolutely think that they should, that Kelvin Banks Jr., the tackle from Texas, athletic, strong, he covers space well. Man, I think just making sure his hand technique is up to par. If so, it's all good. But guys, coming up next, man, getting away from perfect pairing into biggest draft storylines, and it's kind of surrounding the quarterbacks, and not in a good way. We're going to talk about that coming up next. Hey, Locked On NFL Draft fans. Remember our great partner, Ultimate Pro Football GM? Well, they're back, and they have added a new, amazing game mode I need to tell you about. The game that has you step into the shoes of a football franchise GM and lead it to glory now has a new head coach career mode. Ultimate Pro Football GM is completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. Play on the go, as you want and when you want to. And here's a special offer for Locked On fans. Use the promo code Locked On NFL, all caps, inside the game store and receive a free boost to your franchise. Make sure to get it, as this perk will jumpstart your play and give you the advantage you'll want in creating a dynasty. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate Pro Football GM. Guys, start your dynasty today. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch or an urge in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the exact same page where you placed your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 back in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, you'll get started with $150 back in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com to join today. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Biggest draft storyline after week 11 of the college football season and week 10 of the NFL season. My biggest draft storyline is, we just talked about it, there could be some teams that move around the top 10 draft board to figure out their quarterback situation. I think there could be some teams that, if you are not, because right now, guys, you talk to anybody, I have two. Let me repeat that. I have only two quarterbacks graded as first-round caliber prospects: Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Carson Beck is a late second right now. Jalen Milroe a second. Jackson Dart's a third. Quinn Ewers is second right now in the second round. Like, the rest of this class right now is grading out as like day 2 prospects. So if that's the case, right, let's say, as I just was talking about in the first topic, if you have a situation where a team moves up with Jacksonville, if the draft were today and Jacksonville's on the clock, right, got 5 minutes, whatever the clock, whatever it is, right, 3-5 minutes, 10 minutes, they drag it out for commercials and stuff. But let's say Jacksonville's on the clock. It's today. Draft today, Jacksonville's on the clock. They trade out at number 1 to the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders say, listen, we cannot wait. We need a quarterback. So boom, they go get a quarterback. Now you got the New York Giants. They take a quarterback. That's the top 2 quarterbacks are off the board. Are you reaching for a Jalen Milroe? Are you going to reach inside the top 10 and make that decision and selection? You got to think about the Cleveland Browns situation, right? The Tennessee Titans. I know Will Levis had a better game, like probably his best game, but it's not saying much, right? Like, it's not saying much. He's been abysmal since he's been drafted for the most part. And it's like, okay, can he keep that game going? You still lost, but can he play well enough to where, because if you're drafting top 3 and then you end up with a top 2 pick, and I think it's Brian Callahan, the head coach, because Bill Callahan, I think it's his father. He's the O-line coach. So if Brian Callahan gets a chance to draft his guy, why wouldn't they do so, right? So I'm just saying, like, things could shake out. But yeah, like, Cleveland needed a quarterback. Let's, you know what I'm saying? Like the Giants, Tennessee potentially need a quarterback. The New Orleans Saints at 3-7 at the 7th overall pick, they need a quarterback. The New York Jets, if you are drafting, if you keep losing and you end up with a top 5 pick, like, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to draft to help Aaron Rodgers. I'm drafting for my future because you're not about to leave me hanging. I got to find the next Jordan Love, baby. Like, you got to figure that out. But I truly believe with the supply and demand, the demand is high, but the supply is low in terms of first-round picks. I could see teams saying, we're going to go best player available in the top 10. We're going to kick the can down the road. Now, if a Drew Aller is there in round 2, if a Jalen Milroe is there in round 2, maybe, sure, I could see it potentially happening. But I honestly believe that we might see a situation where teams say, we'll wait till next year. We'll wait for Nico Iamaleava. We'll wait for Arch Manning. We'll wait for Cade Klubnik, Malik Murphy. We'll wait for next year's class simply because we don't like this one. And I wouldn't be mad at the teams for doing it. I would not be upset if teams said, we're going to kick the can down the road. Now, is that dangerous? It is, because if multiple teams do it, now you have multiple teams vying for that number 1 spot and trying to get Arch Manning, right? They're going to, if Arch lives up to, and I don't even know if Arch has to live up and be just a dominant college quarterback. It's going to be the name attached to him that's going to help him get drafted top 5 as well. So, yeah, I mean, Arch is good, man. You know what I mean? So I just look at it from this aspect. I could see teams. My biggest draft storyline is I think teams will heavily consider kicking the can down the road to 2026. Like, I could see teams saying, or I'll even rephrase it, kicking the can out of round 1, going best player available and praying and hoping, all right, let me go get Sam Darnold because he's a solid bridge, right? He's a solid bridge quarterback. Let me go get Sam Darnold. And you go get a Sam Darnold. Good, great, cool. Tyrod Taylor, you want to start for at least half a year to a year? Tyrod Taylor can still play. We saw that with the Giants last year when Daniel Jones went down. Tyrod Taylor came in to play better than Daniel Jones had played when he was healthy. So, yes, you look at that situation, right, and say, man, I like this. I like what we have here. I can go with it, right? Well, if the Saints were to try and cut bait and get rid of Derek Carr, a team give Derek Carr a 1-year deal and say, hey, we be our bridge, our veteran, and just let you know we're drafting a young guy in the 2nd round if he's available, right? So I think that's the situation. I don't think that we're going to see more than 2 quarterbacks come off unless, like, listen, the playoff, we got a 12-team playoff this year in college football. We still got, 3 weeks of regular season and the conference championships left. There's some stuff that could shake out, right? Garrett Nussmeier can get on a heater, right, and ball out and get into the college football playoffs if possible. I think, no, they might have, 3 losses now? Doesn't matter. But he can end up having a bowl game run, whatever, and then go to, like, the Senior Bowl and kill it. Go to the Combine, kill it, right, and handle business. And now we're saying and we're asking ourselves, man, that he might be worth it. Like, he might be worth it. It'd be a 1-year starter, 1 year of experience, but he might be worth it. I'm just saying, guys, I could see teams, unless somebody's, listen, will a real, like, remember the 90s, for those who were alive at that time, Eminem, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? Will the real QB3 of the 2025 NFL draft class please stand up? Right? I need somebody to take the reins and just grab the bull by the horns and say, listen, I'm a hog tie this buck, man. This is mine. All right, this QB3, it's mine. Put it on my chest like Superman. If that is the case, great. But I don't know who that's going to be right now. I know that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are my top 2 graded quarterbacks, and it's not changing because no one has proven otherwise. So at the end of the day, I could see teams electing and deciding to kick the can either down the road to 2026 or into day 2 with their young quarterback needs and hoping that they can try and land a veteran during free agency before the draft, to where they say, listen, we're going to compete with a veteran, not Joe Flacco. We're going to compete with a veteran, and then we're going to try and draft the guy in the 2nd round and let him sit, let him marinate, let him learn, and then get him on the field in 2026. 6? Yeah, 2026. But guys, listen, we got one more thing coming up. Next topic, Dames Dudes, 5 prospects. Can you get in? Are you getting in? Can you get into VIP? Or you got to get in that Uber and head back to the campus? We're going to talk about that coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. But it's not just your favorite teams. All events, you can find tickets on Game Time. Concerts, shows, you name it, they have it. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Some of the other things that I really appreciate and love about Game Time, they show the seat views for all the seats in the venue, so before you buy your ticket, you know what vantage point you and your party will have. They have lowest price guarantees, event cancellation protection, even job loss protection, and more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Guys, it's very simple. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Come on now. It's game time. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, Dames, Dudes, guys, 5 prospects. We're going to see if they get into the club, they get the stamp, or they got to get back in the Uber, go back to campus, go back to practice, and try again in week 12. First up, Drew Aller, quarterback out of Penn State. You know, he had the big game against Ohio State 2 weeks ago. Didn't go as planned, especially coming off of that knee injury the week before. But the 6'5", 235-pound quarterback bounced back with a much better performance. Clearly, you could tell he was a lot healthier against Washington, where Penn State won the game. He's in the club for me, man. 20 of 28, 71% completion, 220 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown, no interceptions. He didn't put the ball in harm's way at all. Like, he just played point guard, right? He played a good game overall. And again, for me, when you look at the talent that is Drew Aller, accuracy, ball placement when he's in rhythm, but the arm talent, he's a good athlete at 6'5". Like, yes, like I think this young man, again, he's the enigma. He's the X factor right now of this quarterback class, because if he can get healthy down the stretch, he can, if they get to the Big Ten championship game, which I don't think they will, because they lost to Ohio State. Unless Ohio State loses to Michigan and has 2 losses in the Big Ten, and Oregon runs the table, you could see Penn State getting in there. I just don't know if that'll happen. But nonetheless, they are a team that even without the Big Ten championship game, they're still going to go to the playoffs. If he makes a playoff run and he gets them semifinals to the championship or something like that, and he plays out of his mind, or even he plays out of his mind and then they lose, you know what I mean? It's not his fault. I could see teams discussing him as a top 10, top 15 type of pick because of the growth, the leap he's made this year, the traditional height, weight, build, that elite arm talent that he has, great arm, and then the plus mobility. Yes, he's in the club, man. He played good ball, and I like what I saw from him last week. Coming up next, guys, Walker Parks, offensive lineman for the Clemson Tigers. I like Walker. 6'5", 305. Against Virginia Tech, he had his worst game of the season. 3 pressures, 3 hurries allowed. He didn't allow a QB hit or a sack, and that, Cade Klubnik is an athletic quarterback, can get himself out of trouble, out of harm's way. But just looking at it, man, Walker Parks does not get in the club for me this week. I do like him. I think he's a solid day 3 type of interior offensive lineman who can potentially, depends on how he tests and things like that, he might be somebody that needs to go to the Senior Bowl and to try and get in front of these GMs and scouts and coaches in person, right? Because the scouts go to games and they check out games, they go to campus, but like getting the GMs there, getting the coaches there, sending positional coaches, things of that nature, assistants, let those guys get eyes on them in person will help. But like I said, worst pass protection game of the season against Vatek, Aeneas Peoples, like that defensive line gets after it. And, he just struggled in that game, man. He struggled in that game. And it was the pressure and hurries allowed definitely had a negative impact on Cade Klubnik. So no Walker Parks this week in the club. Luke Grimm, Kansas wide receiver. Nah, Luke's not getting in the club either, man. I mean, granted, they won the game, so it's not like he killed their chances of beating Iowa State. They upset Iowa State, but 8 targets, only catching 2 passes. He did have 76 yards. He did have the 1 touchdown, right? But he also had he was 0 for 2 in contested catch situations. He had 2 drops as well. And this is typically a sure-handed like this. Yeah, this is a sure-handed receiver. Like, and I like him because he's that slot receiver that gets the job done. He doesn't drop the ball like that. So to see him drop passes, to see him not convert when you're targeting almost 10 times, like that's tough for me. So I can't, even though, like I said, 76 yards, he had some big plays, stuff like that. But just for me, I like to see just better catch to target ratio, 8-2. That's tough. That's tough for me. No go. No mas. Next, we have Michael Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia. Nope. I think last week I said that Jalen Walker couldn't get in the club. Yeah, neither can Michael this week, guys. Michael was a offer. All right, 19 pass rush snaps, 0 sacks, 0 QB hits, 0 hurries and pressures, a pass rush win rate of 0, no batted passes, nothing. Like, there was no impact on those 19 pass rush reps. I'm sorry, like, this is a guy I think has immense potential. Arm length, strength, speed, athleticism, all those things are there. But my God, you got to get on the stat sheet. This is like Tony Snell all over again. 0s down the board. We're just getting cardio. No, I love Michael. I think he has a high ceiling, high potential. But you just against a Ole Miss team where the quarterback was kind of hobbled, but he still was able to make plays with his legs, things of that nature. Like, I know they were dropping guys in coverage, they were rushing 3. The game plan defensively was a little weird, but still, yeah, when you get those 19 pass rush snaps, man, got to make them count. And the fact that the offensive line was able to keep you at bay, right? Keep you out the backfield, keep you away from their quarterback. No pressures, no hurries, nothing. That's tough. That's a no for me. No mas. Last up, guys, we have running back from Clemson, going double dipping into Clemson. Running back from Clemson, Phil Maffa. He is a Dames dude. This week, I don't want to say every week, but this is one of my guys. 26 carries, 128 yards rushing, no touchdowns on the day, but he averaged around 5 yards per carry. A passing attack where you had Cade Klubnik go 16 of 34, 211 yards, only averaging 6 yards per attempt with a QBR of 62.1. He did have 3 passing touchdowns and an interception, but again, it was Phil Maffa that really led this offense, kept this offense on schedule. They were able to lean on him. And I think for NFL teams, again, if you need running backs, and I think it's a couple teams that could, Dallas Cowboys for one, right? You could absolutely need a running back, right? The Patriots could end up needing another running back. I think the Commanders should probably, Brian Thompson, the injuries, I think you should look at another running back, right? Austin Eckler and that the rest of that cast is not the future of what you have. So yeah, I think that there's multiple teams, right? The Saints, even though you brought Alvin Kamara back, get somebody in there to keep his body fresh if you're trying to compete next year. I mean, we'll see. I don't know how that's going to work, but nonetheless, I think teams that need running backs, yeah, Genty is great. He's the belle of the ball. I'm not drafting him top 10, top 12, top 15. I'm not doing it. And I'd rather just go ahead and wait to day 2 and get me another guy that absolutely could be a high-end starter. And there's a bunch of them in this draft class. So Phil Maffa, like, what he brings to the table. Physical, downhill runner, 6'1", 230, good burst, decent long speed once he gets open in that long stride. But the physicality, he catches the ball out of the backfield when you give him opportunities. He can pass protect. He can do it all, guys. Listen, day 2, I think that's going to be the run on running backs, day 2 of the draft. So listen, I think I went, 2 of 5? That's not bad, right? Like, Drew Aller, Phil Maffa, Walker Parks, Luke Grimm, and Michael Williams. Luke Grimm almost made it because, like, I wanted to give him some love because he did have a solid, stat sheet a little bit, but 8-2, I just couldn't do it. I need consistency in that situation. But nonetheless, guys, that is our show. for today. Dame's dudes, biggest draft storylines, teams kicking the quarterback situation down, kicking the can on the quarterbacks down the road, or at least out of round 1 in the 2025 NFL draft. And of course, perfect pairing, Travis Hunter to the Jacksonville Jaguars and left tackle from Texas, Kelvin Banks Jr. to the New England Patriots. Guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Guys, leave us a 5-star review, a commented review. Continue to support the show and show us as much love as possible. Subscribe, hit the automatic downloads, and because listen, we're in November, guys. We are in November. Regular season for college football is about to end soon. Then we'll be prepping for college football playoffs, and that run to the NFL draft is getting ready to ramp up. Okay, next thing you know, we're gonna blink. It's gonna be Senior Bowl. So let's get tapped in. Share it with another football friend so they can get tapped in, guys. But on tomorrow's show, we're going over Keith's new and latest mock draft over at the Draft Network. It should be a doozy. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.